After the Secretary of State rejected his emergency rule, Governor Mike Parson announced new efforts today to further regulate the hemp industry in Missouri.
That's right. WGEM Missouri Capitol reporter Hannah Falcon was there when the governor announced these new measures.
The Department of Health and Senior Services started enforcing Governor Mike Parson's rule earlier this month, and today shared these pictures of what they're saying are unregulated hemp products confiscated from Missouri stores. Now, Parson and Attorney General Andrew Bailey announced a task force and reporting platform to increase enforcement efforts.
I've not had one person in the entire industry say this is okay.
Last year, the Missouri Poison Center says it had 168 cases of children 5 and under exposed to cannabis.
Talking to concerned parents, frantic parents, because their children are not responding.
This is up from only 5 cases in 2018. Missouri Poison Center Director Julie Weber blames it on the packaging.
Most children eat the gummies and brownies thinking it's something okay to eat.
The industry has no solution to this. They've not contacted and says, hey, we're going to make sure we get all this stuff pulled off the shelves.
But members of the Missouri hemp trade tell me they have tried to get in contact with Parson about these regulations.
We actively engage, and when we go into these shops that have that, we ask them to remove them. If they don't, we report it to the FTC as a copyright infringement.
John Grady is the co-owner of Slap Happy Hemp Company in Central Missouri. He says the governor's rules and regulations have put the whole industry in a bad light, instead of focusing on just bad actors.
That the legislator will actually work forward to put together comprehensive regulations for the hemp industry to protect Missouri citizens, Missouri children, and the farmers of the hemp industry, the producers of the hemp industry, so we do not kill that industry.
Representative John Patterson, who is expected to take over the role of Speaker of the House next year, says his presence at the announcement Tuesday was a commitment to working on hemp regulations come January. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon, WGEM News.